Okay, so hello to everyone, and thank you so much for joining in and also joining in on time. It matters. Thank you for being here. And let me just quickly give you all an introduction about what is all this session about. So, what brings us here together is the GPC. We call it the Global Peer Coaching. This global peer coaching was started in 2020 by Aniruddha, who is here in the session as well with us. And he's been running these sessions ever since 2020. And this is the season 4 of the GPC. So, the reason we bring the GPC together is that people actually get peer coaching hours, get to know peer coaches all around the globe, get to network. A lot of the coaches get their credentialing done because of the additional coaching hours that they are able to grab onto. But they're also able to then learn and see different styles of coaching across the world. And I know quite a lot of our friends who are on the session with us here who made friends and have stayed friends from ever since we've started season 1. So it's been a really nice way of getting to know new people, staying connected and growing together. So it's always a nice time that way. So this year we have had around 90 participants. We have divided into two cohorts. We started in July of this year. We had two cohorts and around 5 batches each. So people who have been a part of both the cohorts have made around 16 coaching hours, peer coaching. And if it's just one cohort that you attended, then it was 8 coaching hours that people made. So we've already had reviews coming in about their experiences, how they've made friends, how they've had the additional hours, and it's always been a lovely journey for most, as we have heard. Um, and this is now towards the end of the GPC, the Global Peer Coaching. We ended just around November, just around the 15th, and because of the Diwali holidays, it took a little of a delay. And now this masterclass is almost like the closing ceremony of the GPC. And we decided to bring on in this session, we've called it the importance of credentialing and competencies to run your coaching business. And we got about this whole session because we spoke to a few coaches around the GPC participants and heard a lot about them running their coaching business, but having those questions and doubts about the credentialing, how much do we really need to understand our competencies in order to run a coaching business, and a lot of questions around that. And so we thought, why not bring around such a session for the participants and also open for all. And so we have with us two of our esteemed speakers and coaches here with us today for this session. So let me quickly introduce you to them before we begin our session. We have with us Jaya Batija. Can I just quickly spotlight you there? Yes. So Jaya Bateja is a coach, educator, executive coach, team coach, and coach supervisor. She's been coaching and mentoring for around 15 years now and has worked with large organizations to support them with growth mindset and coaching capabilities and has been recognized for a lot of that work multiple times. She has a dedicated practice to train, develop, and supervise coaches for all levels of their ICF journey. Jaya also leads a community of around 200 coaches to continuously learn and grow. What was interesting is that not only learn and grow for the others, but it's something that she puts her efforts into as well. Because what I've learned is that she's got into pottery and Spanish classes just to challenge herself and grow. So wow, thank you, Jaya. And we also have with us Kevin, and if I can quickly spotlight Kevin over here. So Kevin is our multi-award winning professional coach, mentor, mediator, business leader. He has an international career spanning over 30 years in the corporate and multinational organizations and has held management consulting and senior executive management positions in organizations. He now coaches, mentors C-level executive clients and is also a regular moderator, panelist, and speaker at conferences. Kevin is currently serving as the elected member of the 2021-24 ICF Professional Coaches Global Board of Directors and holds the position of vice chair of the board. So thank you so much, Kevin and Jaya, for being here. Um, we also have with us Jayashree Kirtane, our very own ICF Pune MCC coach. I'm going to spotlight you as well. So she's actually already pretty well known within our chapter, but I think otherwise as well. She's been the ex-president with the ICF Pune chapter. And what's also interesting is it was during their tenure that the whole GPC began. So she was also a part of the whole ideation process and everything that happened. So I'm very sure that GPC is very close to your heart as well, Jayashree. So handing it over to you, Jayashree will take it here from us, and she will conduct the session. So all yours, Jayashree. Go on.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, Shilpa. And thank you, everyone, for taking a decision to spend the evening with each other here. So as Shilpa mentioned, GPC began with just 10 participants, 5 from Pune and 5 from Melbourne, and from 10 to 90. And it has been a consistent increase in number and increase in our reach. So we are really very, proud as well as very happy that we've been able to serve the global community of coaches, and all this is free of cost and a lot of work, especially for Aniruddha. So, and today's topic we chose very carefully and intentionally. That's because I think each one of us has experienced, I have experienced it myself, I'm sure that's true for Jaya and Kevin, you too, that we take up coaching or sometimes coaching chooses us. Either way, I think when we are on our journey, there are moments when we start doubting whether this is the right decision. Especially to become a coach is one thing, and to run a coaching business is another. And that is where the whole challenge starts. We start doubting ourselves. We start asking ourselves, I mean, is this all really needed? The whole credentialing, because it takes a lot of effort, a lot of our time and mind space and money too. And core competencies, right? And those of us who have grown up in India have kind of, started doubting the whole connection between what is taught in the college or in the university and what is actually needed at workplace. So somewhere I think that doubt also gives a rise to this whole connection between competencies and earning the business first and then running the coaching business later. Keep running the coaching business. So that's the reason we thought we could address, these doubts if you have any. And also, if you don't have those doubts, even then, just substantiate and reinforce your decision to become a coach and also to run a coaching business. So the way we have structured this session is that first Jaya will share her own journey and what has been her experience with competencies and the entire credentialing journey. Then Kevin will share his perspectives. Each speaker will highlight when they begin as to whether or not they would welcome questions in between, or otherwise we will have a separate Q&A at the later part of this session. So I do hope that all of us learn from each other. And Jaya, over to you.
Thank you, Jayashree. All right. So first of all, thank you for having me here. I'm just going to share my journey, and feel free to ask me questions once I have shown you the map of. And I also want to say thank you to Pune chapter to give me the opportunity to create this reflection slide, because I've never done that about mapping my journey with competency. First of all, I was like, what are we saying? And then it's also interesting that while that time when the journey was happening, this mapping couldn't make sense, but now it's making a lot of sense. So let me show you how it looks. Okay, so I'm going to show you from the time I took the turn. So let's start from 2004 to 2010 is when I was working in corporate organizations, serving organizations' need and finding answers for clients. This was also the phase of life when I was all about them. Them could be my environment, my family, organization, everything outside, so to say. Now, if you see the green box here shows you all the competencies, right? So the numbers are clearly it's self-explanatory which competency supported me the most at that time. And again, obviously, this was not I could do at that time, but now when I at the hindsight reflect, it makes a lot of sense to see how competencies are actually way of life. So around 2010 is when my coaching journey started. So that's the light bulb moment. Evoking awareness was clearly the competency which actually took over my world and created a lot of disruption. Now I can easily say it was all over the place. And then around 2012 is when I got my PCC. So this golden this thing. And those days, it was possible to count your experience at work of coaching, and you can go directly to PCC. So that really supported me because I was working with Accenture BPO, where our task was to do a lot of one-to-ones and listen to them. So a lot of competency mapping could happen. So that was really helpful. So this was a stage where competency 2 and 7 was extremely helpful. Why? Um, because this stage pushed me to take a lot of decisions because of the awareness. So the coaching mindset helped me start a new phase of life, which was, again, here there was a lot of dissonance as well. I may say that. And that's the reason why the decision to move ahead was important. Then came a phase where I said, okay, I need to look inside, find my answers, figure out what's going on, what do I need, what's my values, what's my direction, what's my vision, what's my purpose, all those things that we all ask. So then the theme became me. It doesn't mean others were not important, but this was as we say, focus of life for some time. 2015 is when I started Abhyudaya, and the key competencies. Okay, I have to move the windows. That's why I'm just a bit. Yeah, so competency number 2, starting entrepreneurship journey was totally possible because of coaching mindset. I actually, because I was finding myself a little lost in my life because of all that going on, I think coaching mindset really supported me to say, hey, look ahead, think for future, figure out solutions. What is your goal? Where do you want to go? What about giving yourself new targets? What are the beliefs that are coming in your way? Why is it difficult for you? If you have not done entrepreneurship earlier, does this mean it can't happen again? So all those questions I asked myself. And this small element that you see was basically, it took me a lot of time to understand that I'm the creator here. Nobody's gonna give me instructions. Nobody's gonna tell me what are my goals. Nobody's gonna tell me the ground is open to me. However, that's not how we are conditioned, right? So we feel lost in that. So this was also a stage of a lot of confusion, lot of this thing, but coaching mindset was really the tool that I leveraged to think. That was a time when I also had some coaching tools in my under the belt. So I said, okay, let me use what I have learned, right? Goal setting and stuff like that. So this was that phase. The competency number 3 that you see here is about agreement. This agreement is not about entrepreneurship, but agreement to self, which means that I had to obviously have some conversations with myself to say, hey, why did you take a decision to leave a job? What are some of the aspirations that you wanted to fulfill? What are some of the things you want to achieve? And what are the promises you're going to make yourself to with yourself now going onward? So this is that stage. 2015, 16 was quite a turbulent years. And I would completely say, I won't say blame, but I would say I think coaching really shaken all the grounds, every part of this thing. So this was that period, self-doubt, confusion, as Jayashree said, a lot of internal conflict. Was it a right decision to leave the job? Do I really understand entrepreneurship? Can somebody make a career in coaching? Will anybody pay for coaching in India? Am I just taking too much of risk with my life? All those questions, right? And then that time, it was what was clear to me that this stage actually it was almost like starting new birth, which really means that I had to create and cultivate trust and safety inside me. A lot of inner work went into it, restarting the life from a place that, hey, okay, it's okay if you don't know your values, create it. It's okay if you don't, if you're doubting yourself, prove yourself. If you have internal conflict, solve it, right? If you're in denial, accepting. So all those, a lot of internal work happened in this period. And I think 2016, towards the end, is when I started reframing mindset, reframing life a little bit. So, competency number two, I think coaching competency 2 and 4 were available and enablers all the time, most of the times. That's how I now see it. This was the time when I had received the first award for my work in India from the HRD Congress. And I think that also helped in a way because it opened up a mindset saying, maybe things are not that bad. Maybe you need to look forward. Maybe, you can become an inspiration for others. Maybe you can create paths that have not been trodden so far. So that inspiration really helped. And then came a phase of we. So them, me, and we. So this is a phase when I said, okay, let's create new purpose, new goals, apply what you have learned. Started creating new goals. I started reflecting on what do I really enjoy in coaching, and mentoring came up for me as a first thing. When I started supporting some of the coaches, I really enjoyed the process. I felt there is meaning into this work, and that was really a win-win. I started seeing that some of the coaches who I mentored got their credentials. That was another high, that okay, what I'm doing is working. Obviously it's not only me, but it was something was working there, and that partnership really energized me. 2019 is when I said, okay, you have done a lot, 2 years of mentoring, stretch yourself, you're getting comfortable. What's the next thing? And then coach training was the answer for me. So now coach training as a context when I was working in Accenture was something which was available to me there, in the sense I used to run those programs in Accenture. So whatever little experience I had internally and for my clients there was quite energizing, because it used to push you to answer some difficult questions from the participants. You need to learn, you need to research, you need to figure out a lot of answers, and you need to always be pushing your presence in a way that you can deal with senior audience. So I used to find that space very interesting, that number one, it's not a curriculum that you can teach again and again. It's actually evolving and moving ground, because coach training is not about teaching a curriculum. It also used to help me in deepening my presence and other competencies, especially listening, because you have to listen at so many levels. So overall, a very, I would say, refreshing experience every time I used to train. So even if I would have done hundreds of, not cohorts, but I've trained so many people, but then it doesn't feel like that. Every time it's a fresh experience, because you know that there can be a question which you may have to think about. And that's interesting for me. 2019 is also a time when I received my ICF Young Leader Award and my MCC. So that was again a bit of encouragement to say, hey, maybe you're on the right path, just keep doing what you're doing and do it with more challenge. 2019 to 21, this is a time when I trained and trained and trained. This was during pandemic, so it was a good match, saying use your time more productively. Created a lot of content. Really, these were 2 years when I was just sitting and working. So it really gave me, and I think the whole idea was it was energizing. And it supported me to stretch at all levels of competency. I had to go deeper into the content, deeper into the how do you teach those competencies to others? And again, not only teach, but how do you help them connect the dots within themselves? So it's not about telling you that what is active listening, but it is also about how do you listen, and what are your listening barriers, and what are the things that evokes awareness in you? So at a deeper level, how do you do that? And completely enjoyed this experience. And then obviously, like I got bored. So 2001, I was like, okay, enough of it. Let's do something else. Again, boredom hit me. So 2021, because by that time there were several people, almost I think 100 plus people that coaches that I trained. I said, okay, now what are you going to do for them? Because you can't just train and leave them there, right? You have to support their journeys. Everybody's at a different place. Somebody's finished the program, somebody has not finished the program. Somebody has to reach the credential. Once the credential is done, what next? So there is a continuous learning journey as well. So it kind of challenged me because I never thought I'm going to do that. I was like, oh, I like training. I'm going to do training and that's it. But this reality was different. I said, okay, I think you're getting into a mode that you never wanted to get into. However, I had to go back to agreement stage and say, okay, what are some of the agreements? Are you going forward? Are you going back? There's no option to go back. So you can either go forward or you quit here. So then I create a new purpose and say maybe this is a time when we have enough coaches in the community to create a community and support them through community, because I can't be a single soul keep supporting everybody. It's tough. And how do you take care of everybody's need? And again, so competency number 3, which is agreement, and competency number 8, how do you facilitate growth, was helpful. It gave me a direction. So we created a community on a platform called Mighty Network. Then we also have the same community on WhatsApp. Some of the members are here also. And then we started. Now, when you have a community, you have to engage the community, right? So that becomes another agenda. Now we started figuring out what do we do? How do we do? Then I expanded my team and say, hey, listen, your work is just to take care of my community. Just do whatever is required to make sure that everybody's constantly learning, finding a space for themselves. Because as coaches, I think our journeys are very lonely, right? At some place, we all feel very lonely that we are here to support others, but who's supporting us? Where is my space where I can say anything and I can share my thoughts and I can reflect and people can understand my language and stuff like that? So that community is on now. We are around 260 plus coaches in that community and constantly growing and trying to support each other. And then the milestone, then again, there was a need to create a new vision. So we are at this stage right now. This award is what I received this February 2023 of the Excellence Guru Award in from India chapter, Delhi chapter. And the tree that you see is actually the new offerings and larger vision to take this journey ahead and support coaches and coaching industry. I've been involved with ICF. All of you may know that. I was on the board as well. And the whole idea, every time the mindset was, what challenge can I give myself? How can I learn more? What new perspective can I bring to my conversation? How can I be better than what I am today? And that's the reason why you see competency number 4 here has always been my guiding force, that you have to continuously work on your presence and continuously work on seeing that how can you become seamless in your work, in your effort, in your contribution to the industry, to yourself, to your society, to your family, and everybody around you. So system around you, basically. So that is a snapshot from my side. Thank you so much. I hope that was not too fast.
Thank you. Thanks, Jaya. And I'm sure we are just still trying to absorb. So if at this point in time, if someone from the audience wants to ask anything, because this is just fresh on your mind,
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, I can share the slide again. If you have any questions, please ask me.
Srinivasan here. My
Hi.
first question would be the essential difference between we versus us. You can elaborate on that?
Yeah, so we was more like one-to-one interaction with the coaches. When I was doing mentoring, it was like I'm coaching a couple of coaches for a small group. But us is more bigger. It's a system that you're talking about. So that's what I refer here as we means few people, us means a lot of people, and how do you support them? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I was looking for an internal meaning between we and us, but thanks for the clarification.
So Jaya, if I may ask this question, while this is outstanding, this journey is, if we look at it, it is from 2010 to now and then onward, right? So would you say that coaching as a profession is a longer journey than any other? I mean, had you just stayed at Accenture and not taken this path, how would your life be different?
Well, I think you answered that question saying coaching choose you. And that's exactly what happened. I was pushed in this direction. And then when things started happening one by one, I realized that I'm meant for this career. It was also, I mean, I think circumstances come together to push you for a new challenge. So that's exactly happened with me in coaching. I was constantly looking for answers when I was in Accenture, saying, hey, what is something that can internally satisfy me? Because I've done several kinds of roles and nothing, no place I could feel that, hey, this is me and it has chosen me. But coaching was that space. I think I couldn't survive long for other kind of roles. I mean, and today, if you ask me any other career, I can't think of any other career. So it just
Absolutely.
resonates so much with me.
Absolutely. And it does translate into good business?
Eventually, yes. A lot of hard work. Couple of decisions that I have taken was initially I had to say no to a lot of consulting business, training business, and I have actually just focused on coaching, and that has helped because then that has helped me focus on deepening. I've done a lot of courses after that, deepened my competence. It has shown me results, definitely.
I think the courage to say no is pretty helpful in getting where we want to get.
Yeah, and I think one thing that I clearly learned in this, and now at the hindsight, honestly, is when we become coaches, we need to um, learn not to operate from survival mindset
Mm.
because the survival mindset actually takes away the game. It just basically makes you say yes to a lot of opportunities that you may be just doing it to pay the bills. And I understand we have to do those things. However, that dedication to the any profession, so to say, any business that you run, the business wants you to prove that you're there for them rather than being very distracted and fragmented. And again, different things work for different people. So I could take those calls. I could say no and say no. Somehow I wasn't able to align to any other work. While I had the skills, but I didn't want to.
Now, just one last question from me before we go to Kevin. So, did you experience a difference in yourself? The way, of course, you highlighted the whole increase in presence and the coaching mindset and so on. But when you progressed from, let's say, ACC to PCC and then to MCC and then to a mentor or a coach supervisor, did you see yourself also changing alongside
Oh
as a
yeah,
being and doing?
there is 360-degree change from the time I've started the journey simply because there was a constant work on myself. I mean, today, if I have to list down things and say who I was at that time from personality, character, attitude, or anything, I'm a completely different person. I'm a new person totally. So, totally different. I mean, yes, and yes.
So, Rachna, I see you've raised your hand. Please
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
think Raghu had raised before me. You
Okay.
can go ahead. Yeah.
Uh, Thank you. Thank you, Rajna. By the way, Jaya, it was a very lovely presentation, very inspiring. I really love the way you kind of made it very simple in your entire journey. Pretty much, I believe you answered. One of my questions was during the period 2015 and 16 when you talked about self-denial, right? Did financial instability did kind of played any role? And I'll tell you why I'm asking that, right? People like me who are in job, if they wanted to get into coaching business, it's a kind of a huge leap of faith, right? Give up your salary and then come into coaching where by basically you're starting from scratch. And that those kind of limiting beliefs, and I think in that limiting belief, the financial stability, right, plays a critical role. I just wanted to understand and resonate with you where you were during 2015, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, good question, Raghu. So 2016 was 1 year categorically I did not earn even a single penny. and that taught me a lot. Definitely, when you're jumping to a new career, these are common insecurities we all have. And the way I have managed my internal state was to say, hey, listen, this is not going to be forever. There is definitely you're not doing something right. I realized 1 year when I was trying different things, somebody will say, go to this networking session, do this, do that. That 1 year has brought a lot of learnings to me. Along with that, when I was taking the jump, my husband definitely given me that assurance that you don't have to worry, we will survive. I also I mean, it was not about, 1 year, you give yourself some time to say, hey, listen, it's okay. You can cut down your expenses and live with the essentials, and you'll figure out. It'll never be like this forever, right? So having that faith that eventually it'll work out. Eventually you will have some, it may take some time to figure out some this thing, and things change slowly. So yes, I've gone through that dip of financials also. However, it helps to just see what is more important for you. This was very important for me. And I said, okay, we'll go through that dip. We will cut down on our expenses. We may not do some holidays this year or so. Eventually, some projects, some assignments, things will start rolling in. It may not be as high as a salary at that point in time, but eventually you get there. So for the vision of long term was very helpful at that point. They continued focusing on long term and try to see how much you can avoid, because otherwise you will never be able to take the leap, right? That is limiting barrier that holds so many people. Now when I look back, it was such a good decision.
Thank you, Jaya. That's definitely answers my question as well. I think it's a strong sense of purpose, right, in terms of what you wanted, and that kind of because I'm in the same situation. I don't want to bore many people here, but again, that's something I would love to pick up your brains more in detail. But thank you very much. You're fantastic.
Happy to connect separately as well.
Thank you.
So we'll take one last question from Rachna, and then
Yeah, thanks, Jayashree. So one, I just wanted to thank you. Very inspiring story, very relatable because some, similar to my journey. Two questions, if I may ask. So the first was, there has always been a lot of change that you have brought to your life at certain periods in your life, right? And the moment we introduce change in our lives, conflict, excitement, nervousness is very natural. And the great point that Jayashree had made initially was that there is a difference between being a coach and actually having a coaching business, because the two are, while there is a journey there. So what I just wanted to understand from you and your experience is that, does that inner conflict somewhere change as you grow, or does it actually remain almost the same, like, because every change is bigger, at that point in time. So for example, today I'm just a coach, right? So even taking the leap of faith and saying I'll take, suppose, 10 clients, if there's inner conflict, there's so much of that, right? After 2 years, maybe I say that I want to do a coaching business. So does that journey of inner conflict actually mature, or does it almost remain the same because the change at that point in time is as big as the earlier one was at that point in time?
So the way I'd like to answer that is, what are you giving more power to? Are you giving power to yourself or to the conflict inside? Right? So conflict speaks to you and you speak to the conflict. You need to see who's more stronger. And and I like to use the analogy of a small child. The child comes to the world, doesn't, has no idea about who will take care of that person, who will give food, who. But I think being an adults, we have so much, fear that we have produced in ourselves, that we stop believing about the magic of this life, that we will be taken care of. If you have a sense of purpose, if you have a sense of ambition, education, experience behind you, you will figure it out, right? I mean, we have seen how the job market is going on, and people figure out. We have to believe that our abilities are good enough to make us do something meaningful. So for me, it was important that I continue pushing that boundary and, learn how to have a conversation with your inner conflict, because it's like a wolf. You keep feeding and it'll keep putting you down. So That's how I would like to answer. I think inner conflicts can settle down if you talk to them regularly and not let them win over your mindset, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And just one small bit is that in your journey of growing, how is there anything you follow in terms of ideation, or it is just a talk to the universe and what is actually visible, and that is how you take that leap of faith and start getting into a new kind of work, or is it some science? I'm sure there must be science behind it, but any tool that you may want to share with the world.
When you're starting, you mean?
Yes, like getting into a new phase when, for example, you decided, now I want to go ahead with training. That was a phase, and then you said, I'll take it to the next level. So is there some framework you apply to that?
Yeah, I go back to my drawing book to say, what are my 3 goals for next 1 month, right? What is that I want to achieve? How will this turn out for the people who can help? Simple goal setting. I don't overcomplicate things for myself, because then that, too much of planning doesn't work for me. So I just try to look for a simpler solution to say, okay. And every now and then I have, I always make a goal sheet. And that is what I learned from coaching. Make a goal sheet always. You should have always have a view to how your next 3 months going to look like. How is this year going to look like? Every year I have new goals in place to say, I'm going to stretch myself this year. So simple framework, create the goals and go for it. I don't like to overcomplicate.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. So thanks, Jaya, and stay with us. So once we have heard from Kevin, we may once again engage into some more conversation. So may I invite Kevin now to share your thoughts. Kevin has had a very different background, and I think very, very different background in terms of his consulting career, even currently consulting career, and also comes from a different location. So I think, Kevin, you have a different vantage point, and we would really like to.
Oh, thank you, Joyshri, and wonderful sharing, Jaya. It's lovely to see your journey, and thank you to the ICF Pune chapter for this opportunity to talk to everyone. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different track. I'm going to be a little bit more practical here. So I'm going to have a look at why credentials are important for a coaching business, especially as some of us here are embarking on a journey, and also looking at core competencies as well. So as we're growing our coaching business, it's not just as we go in and work with clients that core competency comes out. It's also as we're trying to generate business, core competency comes out at the same time as well. So I've just put a couple of notes together. My slides aren't as wonderful as Jaya's, but it's just prompts to help us in this conversation. So in terms of credentials, I think the most important thing to keep in mind is you've worked hard for them. So don't shy away from marketing them. In a world where anyone can call themselves a coach, it is a differentiator. So it's important for you to actually put your credentials on. Don't be afraid of it. When somebody can go do a 2-hour internet course for life coaching and then call themselves a coach without any credentials and without any validation of their skills, you've worked hard for it. So why not use your credentials? And what I've been noticing as well over the last 4 or 5 years, as I work with clients around the world and responding to organizations, especially now that coaching has become quite prevalent around the world, organizations are putting out to tender coaching opportunities. And when they put out to tender, they're now smart enough to request for ICF credentials for coaches. So they've actually stipulated in the tender documents that coaches being supplied for this work need to be credentialed by ICF. And in some of the more mature markets, some of the tender documents actually prescribe the level of credentials. So there are many tenders that have come out in the last 12 months that specifically said only MCC or PCC may apply. And in some jurisdictions, especially at executive level or C-suite level, they've actually said MCC coaches only. And as we know around the world, there aren't that many MCC coaches. So it is a huge differentiator for us, especially for those of us that have our MCC designation or aspire to become an MCC credentialed coach. And the one thing that's really important, and what's something that the ICF as an organization is trying to do, is to actually try and educate the public about the importance of credentials. So why should we only go to lawyers that have passed the bar exams? Why can't we just go to any lawyer? I've just graduated from university. I can call myself a lawyer. I've got a university degree. But have you actually passed the bar? Have you actually understood the ethics of being a lawyer? It's the same as accountants. I'm an accountant. I became a CPA. I became a chartered accountant. And a lot of people, especially when it comes to tax work, only go to certified practicing accountants. So as we get more mature and as our society becomes more educated, credentials are becoming more and more important. It sets the standard. I know it's a marketing cliche that ICF uses, it's a gold standard, but it really is, especially when organizations are saying that coaches being supplied for tender documents or tender responses need to be ICF credentialed. And that's a huge win for us to legitimize our profession as a true professional career pathway. So that's just a practical thought about credentials. I'd like to move on to core competencies. But again, I'd like to look at it a little bit differently and not specifically at a coaching side, because we all know how core competency comes out when we coach. I'm going to take a view of this through the lens of business development, right? How do we win? Because we're all out there selling, otherwise we won't have clients. So the key thing then, the number one thing that always pops up for me, and this is kind of being like your true authentic self, is core competency number one, ethical behavior. No prospective client is ever going to come to you if you're not going to behave ethically. Confidentiality, privacy, protecting the client's interests, whether it's at a corporate level or an individual level. And even without doing coaching, your curiosity is sparked during the business development stage, because what exactly is the problem that the client is trying to solve through coaching? So embodying a coaching mindset is right from the beginning, even before you sign on the dotted line on the coaching engagement agreement. And as we go through and work with the client to understand the challenges that they're trying to resolve, we are already creating a safe environment for them, because they're opening up to us to tell us what their problem is that they're trying to solve. And we're practicing and demonstrating active listening, because we're listening to the challenges and why we're there talking to them. And as we go through and talk to them, we may have honest and open conversations, and we're allowing them to create a level of awareness. How's coaching going to help? How's coaching not going to help? And we need to be honest with the client, because sometimes some organizational cultures don't lend themselves to coaching. When you're in an environment where there are a lot of leaders directing traffic, they may not be open to coaching because they're so fixed in their ways. So sometimes we need to be honest with the client and ourselves and just say, maybe coaching is not the right solution for you at this point in time. There may be some cultural issues and challenges that need to be resolved first before coaching can become the right intervention. And that brings in facilitating the client growth, because we're trying to help the client understand that coaching may not necessarily be the one-stop solution for them. It may be a combination of things that is utilized, whether it's training, whether it's mentorship, whether it's team coaching even. As we try to help the client solve their problem, as we're trying to propose a solution for them, we're moving the client forward. We're helping the client create an opportunity for growth for individuals as well as the organization itself. So it's really important to remember that all the way through, we are contracting with the client, whether at a corporate level or whether at an individual level. But at the business development stage, it's about clearly understanding, clarifying their requirements, and then contracting until we get to the agreement and signing the agreement. So hopefully that gives you a quick bird's eye overview as to how core competency impacts the business of coaching. As we go out to look for prospective clients, gain new contracts, we're embodying our core competencies already. We don't have to wait until we start the actual coaching sessions. We're demonstrating to the client our ethical behavior, as well as our desire to help them solve their problem and help them move forward themselves. And just lastly, one of the areas that's always, I find this slide very, very useful, especially with clients that just say, oh, I want coaching, and actually what they want is mentoring. And as Jaya said, sometimes we just have to walk away because it's not the right fit for us. And if what the client is describing is actually mentoring, like, can you give some advice? It's like, can you hold their hands through their transition from being a director to becoming a VP? Can you help them overcome their fear of public speaking? Like, a lot of that is training, consulting, mentoring, counseling. It's not actually coaching. But some of us actually do some of those things. So some of us may actually offer some training. Some of us may actually do some consulting. Some of us may actually be certified mentors with EMCC as an example. So at the end of the day, it's about what's best for the client. How do we help them move forward, continue to move forward? Again, bearing in mind our core competency, helping our clients continue to move forward, their continued growth. So whilst it may not be pure coaching, is there an opportunity here to partner with somebody to deliver the training, the consulting, the mentoring portion? Or if you're qualified to do it, is there a way to integrate that as well? But making a clear distinction as to what coaching is and what coaching is not. So I'd like to leave that as a thought, planting a seed there, that core competencies plays a huge part in our journey as professional coaches, whether through business development or whether through coaching sessions. Core competencies are a part of what we do. And with that, I'd like to open up to questions. Jayshree, any questions?
Thanks, Kevin. I particularly liked, I think, a few things that you said. One is we don't have to wait until the coaching engagement begins for us to start demonstrating core competencies. So I would really like to invite if people want to say anything about it. Have they experienced it like this? So
Can you
I
repeat the question? Can you
Yes,
repeat
please.
the question?
My question is, Kevin said that we don't have to wait until the coaching engagement contract is awarded to us to demonstrate coaching competencies. We can actually demonstrate or embody the core competencies or as a coach, even while we are developing business. So have any one of you had any such experiences? That's my question.
Melinda
Yes.
has got his hand up.
Yep. So
Yes.
actually, I had I think your last shot was really mind-boggling, personally for me. So just to give you a quick context, I have been a CXO for a very long period of time, and just decided to uh, retire from corporate life, and been on this coaching journey. What you could say is a work in progress kind of stuff. Uh, with a very so the objective of getting into coaching was to find it, add value. Okay, which is, and then I came across this term facilitating client growth, and that's the area that I always wanted to be, and I thought coaching was a very good way to do it. But now the caveat is it's a very short journey that I have experienced. But what I've realized is when I'm practicing the first 7, things are absolutely fine. But when I reach the 8th, which is facilitating client growth, I've realized that the expectation that the client has from me, goes into mentoring, training, because he's also possibly seeing me as a whole. He sees my background, he knows where I come from. And every time I have tried to withhold anything else other than coaching, it has not really gone very well. And again, so with this chart, I just felt, and I'm just sharing a very personal thing. I just felt very, how do I say, unlocked, because I suddenly realized that it was me who was constraining myself. Because the client, as long as my takeout of that chart was, as long as I am facilitating clients' growth, why do I have to, label myself as a coach, as a mentor, because this labeling is what creates all this dissonance, I would say, for me as well as the client. I just wanted to share that was my takeout out of this conversation. I felt it really kind of unleashed me in a way. And I just wanted to check whether my interpretation of your last chart, is roundabout there.
So thank you for the question, Milind. So whenever I do business development, before I sign a client on, whether it's a corporate or whether it's an individual, I always walk through that chart just to be absolutely clear in terms of what they are expecting and what I will be delivering. Because I don't want to be in the middle of engagement and it's just like, you're not telling me what to do. Well, that's not what coaching is, right? So is critical to making sure that expectations are managed, and that's all part of the ethics portion of core competencies, right? So having done that, if a client says that, look, I need a combination, that's why I chose you, exactly like you said, Milad. It's about your background. Some people may want to choose you as a coach, especially from a panel of coaches, because your background is something that they resonate with. And they're looking for some guidance as well. So if it's a corporate client, if the corporate tender or the requirement that you're responding to says that they are looking for advice as well as coaching, right, then you need to be very clear in your responses, right? Your response will say, look, there is a clear differentiation between mentoring and coaching. I'm happy to provide both, but during the coaching session, I will clearly indicate that I'm taking my coaching hat off and putting my mentoring hat on. So that when you respond to tenders, it's very clear how you're delivering and that there's no misunderstanding if you keep on asking questions and the client's getting frustrated, right? So it's expectations management is critical, but it also aligns with the ethical practice that we're expected to do as well.
I think it really helps, Kevin. And though I would feel that I have communicated this to the client, but I think this chart and we picked up when we were doing our training. But I think this chart, putting it upfront, possibly, and thanks for the way you explained it. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin. And just to add to what Kevin said, and to your question, Milind, I think whenever we are chosen as one of the 2 or 3 coaches that the coaching client would like to meet, and then we have this chemistry meeting, this chart is the one that needs to be presented to the client and explained to the client, and tell them what each of those quadrants means. And secondly, like what Kevin said, though I do not have, I have not been a CXO like you, Milind. When I say, obviously, right, I mean, in my profile or when I'm selling my coaching, I would say, yeah, I have coached 700 plus corporate leaders and 4,500 hours of coaching experience and all those things. And when they come for chemistry meeting, they do come with this expectation that sometimes the client would say, I've been in this company, the same company, for last 15 years. So I've not seen the world outside of this company. If you have coached so many people from across different industries, then I would want you to tell me, what do other people do in similar situations? What are some options that other leaders exercise? And that is clearly stated as an expectation. And then in the chemistry meeting itself, we need to clarify that it would come under the advice or the consulting, that quadrant. And during the coaching meeting, when the coaching is almost done, and then the client is waiting for you to add your perspective, that is when you would have to ethically say that this is where I'm removing, as Kevin said, removing my coach's hat, and I'm using now my advisor's hat for your benefit. So everything in the service of client's benefit. Thanks, Milind. Thank you for asking.
Thanks, Yashi. That line is very helpful. That because I was not struggling in my mind to how do I communicate that I'm taking out one hat and putting on another. But thanks. I think that's a very simple line to communicate and quite effective. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Milind.
And I think also just keep in mind that Marshall Goldsmith, and Marshall goes to India a lot. He appears at the HRD conference almost every year. So remember what he says, right? He charges a lot of money, and he's quite upfront about that. And he said at one of the conferences, look, I charge $250,000 for 1 year. I'm on call. They have my number. They call me whenever they want. Whatever their questions they ask me, I just give them. Whether it is advice, whether it's coaching, I give it to them because they're paying me that amount of money to be available to them. So it's also about how you want to structure your business as well. If you make the decision that you want to provide advice, mentoring, as well as coaching, that's fine. But just make sure that it's clear when you're doing what, because it's also about educating your client, because your client invariably will refer other clients to you as well, because they love working with you, and they'll say, Milind, he was a great coach, you should go talk to him. But whenever that client refers somebody, they need to understand clearly what coaching is and what advice mentoring is.
Thanks.
I have one more follow-up question on this. It was very nice saying the distinction between advising, coaching, counseling, and all of that. My question comes on the ethical part, whatever we said, right? Whatever we do ethically and right. So my ethics, somehow deep within me, doesn't allow me to associate monetary benefit or a dollar value associated with coaching. Okay. I do see coaching in my mind, I treat this as helping. Okay. So when I do that, putting a money or a business, that's why I'm not able to comprehend myself. Can coaching really be a business? Can the people here in the call help me, guide me as to where I am going wrong?
So Srini, there's no right or wrong answer to your question, right?
Okay.
We all go into a profession for various reasons, whether it's being a doctor, whether it's an engineer, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a lawyer, whether it's an accountant, whether it's a coach. We all have various reasons for doing that. And we just need to be true to ourselves. Some of us may be in a great financial position where we don't necessarily have to charge or charge very little for the services. Some other people have chosen this as a profession. They have mortgages, they have children, they have school fees, they have food to put on the table. So there's no right or wrong answer. It is what it is. Our profession is not regulated. So it's not like doctors where there are minimum charges that they can charge. Some people may only charge $90. Marshall Goldsmith is charging $250,000, right? So we all have our own way of coming into coaching. We all have our own way of giving, and we all have our own way of what we're expecting to get out of coaching as well. So I think for you, I wouldn't worry about what other people are thinking. If you are true to yourself, if you are comfortable with what you are doing, why does other people's opinion really matter to you?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kevin. It's giving me a lot of thoughts and deeper, points to reflect for myself. What is that I stand for and what do I believe? Thank you so much for that guidance.
No problem.
Yeah.
Dr.
Hemant?
Prashant.
Sorry, Dr. Prashant. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I think you answered the question which I was about to ask, because I have changing my profession from advisory consultancy to coaching, because I came to know coaching very recently, 2 years ago. Before that, 8 years I was an advisor and consultant. But now I use this term most of the time, that changing my hat from coaching to consultancy and advisor. But most of the time, unfortunately, the client is not aware about the distinction between coach and advisor. They think coach is an advisor also. So they in between they want to have the answers immediately in the coaching session, in spite of them being clarified that during coaching I'm not going to give you any advice. Maybe if you want an advice, we can have a separate session on advice itself. But then it yeah, automatically it comes to them that they know as a subject matter expert, or with the experience they need an answer, immediate answer, when we are asking as a coach. But you clarified very clearly, so we can actually it is for the client, and if client need coaching, we can give coaching. If client need advisor, we can be advisor also. Thank you, Kevin, for that clarifying.
No,
Very good.
Thank
terrific.
you. Hemant?
Yep.
Yeah. So, Kevin, I really like the way you put that 2 by 2, and showed very clearly what coaching is, mentoring is, and how these play out. Now, one thing, I do career coaching for professionals, including the CXOs. Now, this question of what we are doing, are we doing coaching? Are we doing training? This question comes in our mind as coaches. Okay. Clients actually don't care about this. But because, as you rightly pointed out, the ethics of coaching, which is the first competency, right? So we as coaches have this responsibility to let the client know that what coaching is, what it is not. Also, because they come like Jayashri was saying, that when they look at you, when they look at your profile, when they look at your 25 plus years of experience and all of that, they expect some kind of advice from you. And if you see corporate leaders today, nobody comes purely only for coaching. Of course, coaching is very powerful, but they also need that bit of advice. Like Jayashri said, that perspective, a fresh perspective. They also look at coaches as thinking partners. All of that happens. And that's why it is really important to make it very, very clear even before signing the agreement, that what it is and what it is not and how it will play out. So in my coaching, I do coaching plus mentoring and sometimes training also, but I clearly call it out that way. That is one part of ethics, Kevin. Another part which I wanted to talk about is the intent part of it, right? In the ethics. In one of the corporate engagements, the sponsor of coaching wanted to use coaching for something else. Like they had already decided that they wanted to fire somebody. But as per their company policy, it would have been very harsh for them just to fire that person for some reason. So they invited coaches, and I was one of them, and they said that this person is going through tough time now. Can you coach this person? But this person is already a troublemaker in the company, and the sponsor requested me that, can you share your conversation details with me when you speak? I said, absolutely, that's not going to happen. It's absolutely not ethical for me to, share that with you. There is a confidentiality. And I realized that the objective of coaching was not to support the leader, but was something else. Use coach's shoulder to, you know, shoot somebody else, right? And I politely, said no to that. So that intent part. So this is where in our business development, we actually demonstrate uh, coaching competency, especially the ethics part. So that becomes very important. So that just popped up in my mind what happened. So I just wanted to share that with you, with
That's
everyone.
wonderful. That's great to hear him out. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Shilpa, if we could get now Jaya also on the screen.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So one question that is coming to my mind is, and in line with the discussions so far, many of us who are coaches to corporate leaders enter into it's like a tripartite situation. So the sponsor is different, or the HR and L&D is different, and the coaching client himself or herself is different, right? So I would like to really, understand from both of you, and I'm hoping that our participants also want to know that. How do you manage, how do you navigate, those tripartite situations? And do our competencies, really help us in doing that?
So my response to that is contracting is the main competency that needs to be taken care. Like in our training programs, we say ABC, always be contracting. Whether you are within the conversation, whether you are starting the engagement, wherever you feel misalignment, wherever you have to recontract, go back and say, is this my understanding? And is this your understanding? Are we on the same page? And obviously, when we're dealing with stakeholders, a business stakeholder has a different need, an HR stakeholder has a different need. How do you keep aligning with them? Within the engagement, generally, the practice is that if you are signed up for 6 sessions or 8 sessions, first design the process to say, okay, after three, before sessions, we'll fix on the goals, we align. In between, if you find some misalignment, go back and contract, do review meetings. Make sure that there is no bit of confusion at any side. And that's the reason why we practice a lot of contracting at every stage, whether it is with a client or stakeholder. Keep doing that. Documentation is a good idea to ensure that there is no confusion. So that's what I practice, and it has definitely helped me. Definitely, there'll be quick, cases where things will go wrong, and that's the place to learn to say, hey, what else could have been done at the contracting. So contracting is not a one step, is what I'm trying to say. It's always be contracting. Continue doing contracting at every stage. That's how I would put it.
Thank you. Kevin, if you want to add.
So I agree with Jaya on that. The only thing that I do a little bit differently is I have a three-way conversation at the beginning. So it's really important from an expectation management perspective, but also from a transparency perspective as well. So whoever the sponsor is or HR, together with the coachee and myself, we sit together and go through how this is going to run, the number of sessions, how you go through and book the appointments, and also about the confidentiality, right? Whatever is said here remains sealed, right? Unless the coachee decides to have a conversation with their manager, and that's their prerogative, not mine. So that always takes place whenever there is a corporate contract in place. The other thing that I'm seeing a lot of now, especially with the mature clients, is that as a part of tender documents or coaching requirements, they are actually requesting midpoint check-ins during coaching sessions. So if there are 6 sessions or there are 12 sessions, there invariably will be checkpoints in there. And some of the mature clients want to do that because they want to track progress, because especially if it's a 12-month program, from beginning to end, it's too far away to see whether there has been improvement in the coachee. So some of the smarter clients now are requesting that when you send your proposal back in, that you also incorporate the cost of midpoint check-ins as well.
And one more thing that I practice is whenever there is an update which needs to go to stakeholder, it's not the coach who's sending it. It's my coachee who sends it. So there is a complete, there is a sense of trust, and it's not that I'm sending an email to stakeholder. The coachee is at the driver's seat, and we can review, discuss everything, but the email has to go from their mailbox. That helps me maintain my relationship with my coachee and the stakeholders, because
Ownership is with them.
Ownership is with them, and there is a component of trust and safety there.
Speaking of contracting, right? I'll give an example and you tell how can we really do contracting in these places. Recently, I got a call from one of my colleagues. His son is studying in top engineering college in India. He was saying that he's going through mental stress, okay, because of academic issues. He said that, Srini, I need your help to speak to this boy and tell him and see, to pep him up and ensure that he clears the exam and get his career back in track. Okay, his numbers were coming down, grades were coming down, and he wanted me to check. Now, this was a friend who came and called me, but I can get this call from an unknown person saying that, Srini, as a coach, I would want you to guide my son to come out of this, right? There are cases wherein I got people who said that during COVID, they lost both their parents, and the boy and her younger sister were alone, and the boy wanted to see what next he can do in his life. So in these kind of situations, how do I go contracting? And is contracting even an option here?
See, contracting doesn't have to be pen and paper always.
Okay.
Can be just agreed conversation that we are on the same page, and it can be on email with few lines with such kind of clients where you don't want to make it extremely formal. But contracting really means that we are on the same page. That what I understand and what you understand and what you're looking for and what I'm giving is same. So a little bit of education comes in place to say, hey, do you understand the difference between coaching and mentoring? Are you looking for mentoring? Are you looking for coaching? This is what I can provide. This is how it will work. We will engage for a few sessions, whatever. But there has to be some foundation set before you start the conversations, rather than assuming that they would know or this is how it will take place. So cutting down on all kind of assumption is contracting. It can be formal, it can be informal. It can be just a simple email in cases where it is not an organization. So that's how I'll put it. That's how you reduce the confusion. That's really the objective of contracting, reduce all kind of confusions. Does that make sense?
Thanks. Yes, it does. Thanks a lot, Jaya.
And even when you're starting coaching Rise, when you're starting the session, the one thing that they always teach you in your coach training, right, is whenever you start a session is, what would you like to work on today?
Okay.
That's contracting, right?
Yeah.
You're contracting with a client right from the beginning of a session. So as Jaya said quite correctly, it's not pen and paper. It's about asking what the clients want and then managing expectations. And then at the end of the session, some of us end the session with, did you achieve what you wanted during this session? That again is contracting. You're actually closing out the contract.
Okay, got it. It's all about confidence building and making the client comfortable.
It's about reducing the confusion.
Confusion, yes.
No doubt, no confusion, being on the same page as much as possible.
And remember, as coaches, right, we're supposed to be helping our clients gain clarity. Contracting allows us to gain clarity as to what the session is about, the goals that we're supposed to achieve, and whether we have achieved them or not.
Also,
thanks a lot.
Srini, in the cases that you mentioned, I think out of the 4 quadrants, the line between therapy or counseling and coaching, I think that line also sometimes gets blurred because people
Yes,
think if
yes.
you are a coach, you can talk to somebody and make them feel better. We need to understand whether they actually need a therapist or a counselor or they
Yeah.
need a coach. So
Correct,
that's
correct.
also a part of our.
Very
Yeah,
important.
the first chemistry meeting has to happen there. Yes, I will get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what examples you were sharing about pandemic and people going through trauma, and generally they're looking for somebody to help. They may not know what is coaching, and we may not offer coaching at that moment. Maybe they just
Yes,
need
yes.
somebody to be with them, right? So that is a judgment that we have to take because we have done the education, so we know what's the difference. And especially, for example, talk to my child, help them clear this. Please make them understand this is not coaching. So we can just generally, be available for them and listen to them and provide any guidance that we want without calling it coaching. That is easiest way to manage this.
All right. Thanks.
Hemant, is your hand raised or?
Yes,
Okay.
Jayashree, I just wanted to share something very quickly on the point that you earlier raised. In fact, you asked that question about the three-party agreement.
Hmm.
And that's a very interesting and tricky area for many coaches. I have seen so many trickies, and one happened with me recently. So I'm coaching a corporate leader, and as Kevin was also mentioning that this, first meeting to do with the sponsor, the coachee, the HR manager, and the coach, right? That is what we did as part of the best practice. So we did that meeting. That meeting went really well. And the sponsor said, this is what, and the sponsor and the coachee had already discussed what they wanted to work on. In the meeting, it came out and they said, okay, the sponsor said, he said, these are three things that we want to work on. And the coachee said, yeah, aligned, right? And I'm listening and I'm watching. And the HR manager said, yeah, let's get started. First session, the first thing the coach says, I'm not aligned with the goals. Okay, first thing, first thing he says. Okay, now what do we do, right? I said, I was taken aback and I politely asked him that last week we met, same place, right? We met at the same place. And you gave a thumbs up and you said, yeah, good to go, right? So he said, you know what? It was the first meeting. I couldn't say anything in front of you. I'm meeting you for the first time. I couldn't say anything in front of my boss. The HR head is also sitting there. What do we do? I said, okay, this is where we are. So I requested we need to go back and see, otherwise this coaching session, this coaching journey will not make sense. Okay. So I requested him to go back, talk to the manager, talk to the HR. And I said, we need to regroup because only when we are aligned on the goals, I can help you as a coach. So sometimes we have to also step out and see what is our responsibility and what is not. And, bring in the right thing is, I just wanted to share that. Yeah, so I don't know if I did the right thing. My intention was that, let's align on the goals and then only coaching can start. But any different perspective, I would love to hear from any of you. I mean, especially Kevin, Jaya, and you, Jayashri, or any other coaches.
Good point, Hemant. Actually, that's what at times we hesitate to do, especially when we are starting as a coach. Is like, yeah, whether I'll get the work or not, whether I'll be on this assignment or not. There is a lot of fear we also go through. So, courage is the thing that coaches need to practice to say, hey, right is right, and we need to make sure that we are staying honest and ethical to our practices. And I think the approach that you followed was absolutely an inspirational one because we generally try to chicken away from this just by thinking that I don't know what stakeholder will say. At times stakeholders also come very strong and they may not encourage these kind of conversations, or they may not be ready to give you a lot of clarity simply because if there is something else going on in the background which you will not know. So, right thing to do is go back and not move forward till the time you have that clarity. And absolutely, that's my point of view.
Yeah, I think I think we need to go back to the first conversation, to the drawing board, so to say. But Hemant, if I were in your place, I would have also used that moment as a coaching moment.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah.
So yeah, it
I
is
asked him
about.
what stopped you from saying this, in the first meeting, right? Yeah. You're right, Jayashree. Yeah,
So somewhere
absolutely.
I think that opportunity to contribute to that person's understanding about self-awareness, I think that opportunity exists for us, whether we go ahead with that engagement or not. I think that opportunity, and I think that's the thing for which all of us are here, right? In the coaching profession. For being of help to somebody. If we can bring a little bit of self-awareness or a little bit of peace in somebody's life, that is how I look at it. So whether that person, for example, going ahead chooses me as a coach or not, if I can even make that 30 minutes of chemistry meeting worthwhile for that person, that's good enough.
Yes. And that was one of the improvement points his boss or his leader had also given to him, that you do not speak at the right time, at the right forum. Okay.
So
So
you
that
just,
came out very clearly.
exactly. Just
And something that is coming to me right now is that that's at times that's the area, because there is a difference between identity and reputation. And questions like, if you don't agree, what could be making your manager bring this as a focus area, could be a conversation like what Jayashree said, to understand that, hey, listen, if your organization has decided to invest in you in this particular focus area, what is going on, kind of conversation, because a lot of time the difference between identity and reputation is not understood that well. So yeah.
Raghu?
So, Jaya and Kevin, I've got a question. More often than not, I come across people when there is no clarity or there is no purpose, right? And that I find it very, very challenging. It's very much easier if somebody is very clear, you know what to focus on, and the coaching. But I came across one person, pretty much very successful entrepreneur. He has grown, he's done everything. Once you've done and achieved, then what's the purpose? What's the purpose? And I had no idea how to go about it. So I'm just trying to get some of the best from brains here. And how do we even tap into, create, give that clarity to that person when there is no purpose, where there might be a purpose, but how do I extract that? By the way, I only attract difficult clients.
You are a magnet for difficult clients. But that's a gift.
I think one of the ways that I've managed that kind of conversation is to ask them to reflect on what is a new purpose they can create now if there is no purpose. Another thing is, I think most of the times, we being human beings and clients are perceiving that purpose will come to them. And the shift in the perspective is, purpose doesn't come to you, you create a purpose, right? So you create a purpose to things that you align to, rather than waiting for one day a dream coming to you and saying this is your purpose. So that understanding has shifted few perspectives. And then at times clients have taken time to say, okay, let me just think about it and create new purposes. If I don't know clearly what I need to do, and if I have met all my purpose, maybe give some time, because it is connected to your inner voice and inner calling, and the maybe a purpose you want to serve, in the sense a cause you want to serve. So that's how I have dealt with it in a couple of cases.
Got it.
Thank you. And I just looked at the time, and I know we have just maybe 4 or 5 minutes, right, Shilpa?
Right.
Yeah. So I just have and I know, Milind, your hand is raised, but if you could just stay a little late, for a few minutes after 7 o'clock, then we can release the other participants and you can continue the conversation. I just have one last question, and for a quick answer from both of you. This question has been asked, and every day, rather, I receive at least one call from any wannabe coach as to how important, besides the credentialing of credentialing from ICF, how important it is for coaches to go in for any other certification, such as a psychometric instrument or an NLP or any other modality. Is there any view that on Kevin?
So my position on that is that it's up to the individual, right? How important is it for you to have those credentials, whether it is what I got NLP or whether it is some other kind of intervention? certified management consultant. There is the global certification for that as an example. So some people like security, and getting certified provides that security. And some clients, especially in Asia, as opposed to some of the Western countries, Asian culture tends to be a paper chase. So unless you have the certification, the degree, the diploma, or whatever, people may not come to you. So it depends on you as an individual, on your confidence and the environment that you work in. So there's no right or wrong answer. There are many aspects that influence or impact whether you get further certifications. But at the end of the day, it's about how much knowledge that you gain and how much exposure and experience that you gain to help your clients. What is the fundamental reason why you're going for that certification? What new knowledge are you trying to get in order to help move your clients forward? I think that should be the fundamental question you should be asking.
Thanks. Thank you. Jaya, I'm sure you must also be hearing this question a lot.
Yeah, I think looking at my own journey, the education is first of all part of our coaching mindset competency, right? Which suggests that we should be engaged in personal development continuously, especially because the perspective that you multiply through different programs helps you integrate the knowledge. Like, for example, after COVID, the kind of issues that were coming in needed a very different kind of mindsets from coaches. And being coaches, you always need to be ahead of the world and be ready to give perspective to even your highest of your clients, right? Now that's where the education of multiple education has supported me. There has been years when I've not picked up any program, and there has been times where I felt, oh my God, I think I need to learn more because I'm just not getting ideas and not able to create new perspectives. So it is for your own interest. Definitely, client needs also play a role, especially in terms of assessment. If you have been trained on one or two assessment and that is taken well, that's great. But I've seen some people like doing those. So again, individual choice. If you're going for team coaching kind of stuff, and that has a particular assessment which is being asked by the client, so choice, make a choice. However, continuous investment in your development is in your favor as a coach and for your career, because that really helps you multiply and bring new perspective to your clients. That's how I'll put it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, both of you. And Shilpa, are you going to close the session?
Yes, yes. I would first like everyone to come on video, if possible.
Photo.
Yes, I have to have the photo before I thank everyone. So let me just quickly remove the spotlight
And while Shilpa is doing that, I must remind you that ICF Pune chapter is hosting the ICF India Coaching Conclave this year. It is 16th and 17th of February. Very intriguing topic, impact of coaching, purpose and prosperity. So a lot of things that we spoke about today. So please come and join us. It's an in-person conference.
yes, and if we can have some more people that are off video, if we can have everyone on video and the smiles on, that helps. Okay. Give me a second. So, I mean, thank you so much, everyone, for actually staying through the entire session, paying so much attention, and some of the questions that have been coming on the chat box and people asking questions as well. So, thank you so much for being here. Special thanks to Kevin and Jaya for sharing everything. I love the part that, Jaya, you brought this sense of your journey, and Kevin brought this practical aspect to the whole thing. So, the way the entire thing came together was really beautiful. And thank you, Jayashree, for those questions. But also, you were so involved in the conversation, you had your own points as well to add, which is always very, very meaningful. So, thank you so much for that as well. Thank you to all the participants. Big thanks. It really felt like a whole conversation going on through with people with their questions coming in, flowing in through. So it really felt really nice that way. Thank you to Anirudh and Tina for being there for the entire GPC as a support. And Tina, you've been a wonderful support with all of us. So thank you so much, Tina. And Anirudh, I guess, is busy in his own qualities. So thank you everyone for being here. And am I missing out on anything?
Thank
I
you.
think oh, thank you so much. And I have also shared the CCU form to be filled in case you're looking out for certificates. Also, this is being recorded, so this will be on our YouTube channel as well, which we will be sharing. And yes, as Jayashree shared, we have the conclave coming up. We'll be sharing more details about the same, and looking forward to meet all of you all in person, which is which is a good thing these days. Let's do that. Let's make it and meet each other and share and grow together. All right. Thank you so much. If anybody wants to stay back for the conversation further, please do. But officially, we are ending now. Thank you so much. Thank you, and have a good day, all of you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You'll have to stop the recording.
Recording, yes.